About the Lyrans, the lion people, the feline race. Posted by Black Ishtar. The following information is a composite of knowledge that I have gathered through other felines from my homeland galaxy of Lyra and Vega star systems. Slowly we are connecting with each other. There are a few of us here on Earth at the moment, but I know there will be more of us here in the coming days, so you will probably become acquainted and more aware of a presence in due time. We are here to help and assist you with your emancipation and the ascension process. The Lyrans are a race of humanoids that have been in existence long before the history of Earth began. We come from many planets associated with the star system of Lyra. We are very human-like in our appearance. You would not be able to tell us from any other human if you were to pass one of us on the street. In fact, we are responsible for the seeding of your planet with a humanoid-looking being that is associated with Earth. We are perhaps on the average a little taller than most Earth humans and our skin is not as dark, but those would be the only differences between us. There is some information out there that says we are now Pleiadians, but that is in fact not true. We would be considered cousins to them in a manner of speaking, but we are not one and the same. We worked a great deal in conjunction with the Pleiadians in seeding efforts not only on Earth, but many other planets as well. In that respect we share a great deal in common with the Pleiadians. In fact, many Lyrans have lived many lifetimes as Pleiadians. We exist on a higher level plane of existence than Earth is presently on at this moment in time. In fact, we as a race have transitioned to this higher plane successfully in relatively recent times. This is one of the reasons we have a keen interest in Earth at this time because of Earth's own ascension process taking place now. This also is why there are many Lyrans incarnate on Earth at this time so as to be of assistance to the Earth and her peoples in this time of transition. We are here to help show the way, because of our experience. In a sense we have a parental role to play with the peoples of Earth and we are watching you grow and mature. There are several clues that would point to the fact that a person is a Lyran living on Earth. These clues have more to do with the personality than with the physical, as our morphogenic form is very similar with humans from Earth. The person will have a sense of mission. They will know at some level, even though they may not be able to put their finger on it, that they have a specific purpose for being here. The person will be drawn to the stars. This may take the form of being interested in astronomy, for example, or reading science fiction, or being attracted to science fiction movies and the paranormal of all sorts. Also, the person will sense that there is an underlying truth in these books and movies. It may feel like you have been a part of something like you are reading or watching. These people also know that the human is capable of so much more, but knows that they have been lied to about the human potential. The person will also have a sense of underlying authority. People will tend to gravitate to you and trust your thoughts, judgments and opinions. The person may not be in a high position of authority, but nonetheless people recognize your authority. There will also from time to time be issues with authority, or rather an aversion to authority figures. There is a certain amount of sternness and seriousness that goes with this type of person. They will not suffer fools gladly, as the saying goes. In this vein they will not be the life of the party, not necessarily. I love parties. They are more quiet and reserved and tend to do more observing than talking. Some do, not me. This type tends to be loners. Not that they do not have family and friends, but they are comfortable with themselves and do not always need everyone around for fulfillment. That is all for now, though we will have more to share in the near future. Description: the felines are one of the two primary races in our universe. They arrived here by invitation of the founders. Having successfully completed their universal game in completing their universe, a group of 45 felines volunteered to come to this universe to help set up and oversee the same game here. The felines are a bipedal race that stand 12 to 16 feet tall. Their skin is covered by a sort of soft fuzz, and though they don't have fur, they do have manes, and both the males and females have long hair. Their eye color ranges from blue to gold and can change from blue to gold as they mature. They also turn from a golden brown color to white. The overall feline temperament is warm, sanguine and intellectual. As they mature they take on more of a somber, introspective and gentle nature. The elders are revered for the wisdom, compassion and insight. As a race they are extremely close and have a great sense of fair play. The females are revered and honored in equal status with the males, and true to the feline way, they are all very curious and inquisitive. As part of the universal game, the founders gave the felines a new planet in the Lyra constellation for their home. The felines named it Avon. Now this is not the exact pronunciation, nor spelling, but it is close enough. The real name cannot be translated into English. Avon was a paradise planet with mountains, lakes, streams and oceans. This blue planet was very much like our present Earth in form and variety of vegetation and life forms. When the felines arrived, they were in etheric form, and therefore, went through the stage of evolving a physical body in which to reside on the planet. After many millions of years they evolved the lion and other felines and began incarnating into those forms. As part of the plan, a portion of the original felines stayed in etheric form to provide guidance to those incarnating. They would be the equivalent of your modern-day Christos beings. Remember, this was a 3D planet and once the etheric felines incarnated they would fall under the veil of amnesia that is part of the workings of a 3D planet of free will. As time passed, and through countless incarnation cycles, the felines evolved a line of felines that walked upright and retained the consciousness of their etheric counterparts thanks to the periodic incarnations of some of the etheric felines, and DNA from a bipedal mammal similar to the ape, that was evolving on the planet as well. With the DNA from the ape-like mammal the felines were able to take on a more human-like body while retaining most of the facial features and other characteristics of the feline. It was from this crossing when it reached a certain stage that the genetic line known as the Royal Line of Avon, or House of Avon, came into being. The etheric felines would continue to take turns incarnating to provide not only DNA upgrading, but teaching and training in higher dimensional principles lest their planet-bound brothers and sisters get stuck in the non-sentient animal incarnation cycle. As you can see, the felines evolved on Avon in much the same manner as humans evolved here on Earth. The only difference is that the humans did get stuck in the animal cycle. More on that later. In time the conscious felines grew large enough in number to take on the responsibilities of planetary guardians of their home world. They continued to evolve and eventually developed the technology for space travel and then warp technology. Their etheric brothers and sisters continued to act as their guides. Many among them became geneticists of feline speciality and began helping to develop life forms of various kinds for planets and stars in the universe. Some among them became great space explorers and scientists of various kinds. It was during this stage in their development that the felines would turn their attention to that bipedal mammal they owed so much to, and begin a program of genetic crossing and upgrading that would give them a soul and, in the process create a new species that would become known as the humans. After numerous crossings and genetic upgrades, the Adamic human was made. There were two strains, the red-headed strain being the more outgoing and energetic, and the platinum blonde strain being the more gentle-natured and introspective. After many thousands of years of continued careful crossing breeding, the feline, human hybrids began to be more common in the royal line of the felines, the House of Avon, than the purebred felines were. Yet, this was the plan. In time the purebred felines would become the ancient ancestors of the humans with only their genetic traits as a reminder of the connection between them. And though the genetic relationship between the felines and humans has been forgotten by modern man, the felines remain in our consciousness as a regal creature, worthy of our respect and love. The felines remain the loving and supportive guardians of their genetic offspring, the humans. They have continued in this role through time and all dimensions of the universal game. Devon Feline is the reigning patriarch of the 9D Royal House of Avon, and a new human is the reigning patriarch of 5D Royal House of Avon at this time. After the Lyran Wars, our homeworld was one of the last standing against the old empire, the Ananuki, that took and devastated many systems. Our own world was destroyed in the end with billions still left there as only so many could be rescued. We were taken into many systems. Pleiades, the blonde-haired Nordic-looking Pleiadians are the Lyrian ones, as well as Sirius, and Andromeda, and other systems as well. We exist in higher dimensions in these other systems as I have been shown living in a crystal city in the Pleiadian one once while doing a mediation. We are aspects of our higher selves, and on assignments. Lyran history. From what I've learned about these beautiful and optimistic peoples, this is the history of the Lyran, vegan race. Long ago the Lyrans came to our galaxy from another not far from this one, demonstrating their wonderful creative abilities of crafting and uplifting new species in Eden of the universe. They are a very peaceful peoples with an endless culture concerning their almost billion-year-old existence since their ascension. If it wasn't for them we wouldn't be here now, since they uplifted our own creators, the Pleiadians. And for several of years they continued this process of creation, and as a result thousands of races rose into perfect balance and oneness with the universe alongside with the mighty and loving Lyrans. This great surge of light attracted negative beings through national universal law. For a long time they mingled peacefully for many years in perfect balance, and they too created beings to further balance the galaxy. The Lyrans' homeworld is in the vicinity of Vega. From what I know this beautiful planet is lush in both trees and plants and has an endless biodiversity. It is known to have many small waterfalls dotted all across the planet's land surface, and this is where most vegan cities develop. Though I'm not completely certain, but have a pretty good idea of, that vegan priests wore tannish or green or dark purple robes with sometimes strange long capped-like hats. Otherwise most commoners also wore purple. The Lyrans are feline-like peoples that can range from 8 feet to 6 feet tall. Other Lyran groups can reach above 10 feet. They have wonderful towns and cities, but many are very isolated or small due to the fact that they can only go so far until they could possibly hurt the environment around them like trees or animal species. So a large majority of these places were put upon grassy fields and oases. Sadly I'm not sure enough what their ships looked like, but the Lyrans had also a large peacekeeping space fleet that traveled the universe to find new worlds to test their wonderful creating abilities. And for a long time the galaxy was in peace and harmony for millions of happy years to come, but something occurred that made the negative beings angry at the vegans and their creations, and after many attempts to make peace once again a fellow allied star system was attacked by reptilian and bird beings' fleet of ships, and thus the Great Galactic War began. The vegans didn't want to interfere. But when the battlefront came very close to home, and after billions had been killed from draconian and reptilian invasions alike, the Lyrans feared that their homeland would not make it to the end of this war. So many told the species that they had most recently created, the humanoids, to escape from the attack and to make homeworlds elsewhere. They broke into 3 distinct factions and left for other worlds to prosper by. Not too long after, Lyra was soon introduced to an ultimatum: you leave your home world, and never come back again, or you die by the reptilian warcraft, and sent to extinction. In such desperate times even some peoples of the extremely spiritual, loving and peaceful Lyrans called for some type of rebellion. But they knew they could not do this in fear of losing their spiritual place in this universe. When the attacks began, a large majority fled to neighboring universes and took everything they could to accompany them. Another majority integrated with the 3 fleeing factions which would later become the Pleiadian, the Orion, and the Andromedan humanoid races. while others stayed at their homes and would rather accept death for the pure fact that they couldn't live with the sorrow that is happening to the galaxy and to the peoples they themselves created. Then a terrible bombing run was released onto the great abandoned and once peaceful and serene lands of the Lyran homeworlds. And little was left of their history afterward. And none of their cities were left unmarked by the great destructive bombs of war. After Vega was successfully wiped of any Lyran inhabitants, and others taken prisoner, it was over. The reptilians thought they had succeeded in their genocide of the Lyran race, and that all were truly extinct from this universe. Luckily, that wasn't true. A group of shamans and priests were specifically chosen to keep the teachings, the history, and the beautiful and peaceful culture of the Lyrans alive forever. Afterward many left their physical bodies to become immortalized not for the purpose of living near forever, but to spread their message more easily across the galaxy and so on. To the ones who listened to these divine priests and shamans, the children of the vegans now knew that the Lyrans were still very alive and that they were always there for the sons and daughters that they had helped create and uplift. They also told the children of the vegans thriving in a sister universe than this one. This was mainly their message to spread hope to the positive beings of the galaxy. Because partly of their courage and virtue the moral of the positive beings at war was greatly increased, and then they established the Uniting Rebellion Federation that would bring together all of the beings that wanted to be free of the reptilian grasp, and thus, even against towering odds of their much smaller force, the reptilians surrendered years later. This would later become the Galactic Federation of Light. Without the Lyrans, the war would never have ended on such a note, and the reptilians would have completely unbalanced the universe while killing billions of innocent lives. Now why can't the Lyrans just return to this universe now that the war is over? Well, the reptilians, though currently not in major warfare against anyone at this exact moment, still haven't felt sympathy, or is that empathy? For the vegans and what they have done to them. The vegans were commanded to stay in the other universe and sadly never come back. Who knows when the reps will have a change of heart, but we should all know that even if reptilians have a bad past and they are negative beings, doesn't mean that they are bad people. I'm pretty sure sometime in the far future the vegans can safely return to the universe and an age of harmony will begin once more. Starseeds that have dominant Lyran origins may be confused at the fact that almost everyone in the galaxy is Lyran, because a large majority of the space federations that starseeds come from were or had relationships with the Lyran Federation of Light. It is almost certain that if you came from Vega one time, you also reincarnated in other uplifted species as well. If you are purely Lyran, which is very rare, the only explanation is that you could be one of the famous sages that stayed in this universe during the Galactic War. Here are the traits of Lyran starseeds as follows. Vegans: those who have Vega as their planetary origin are self-sufficient, independent, proud and strong-willed. There is an outer smooth energy and appearance of strength and capability. Those from Vega tend to be knowledgeable in a wide variety of areas. They may be trivia collectors for information concerning their areas of interest. They have a variety of talents and capabilities, are quite creative and often have an ability to combine creative expression with intellectual expression. They may be artists, designers, inventors, architects, or in current times may work more closely with creativity through new or expanding technologies. Their methods of working with technology will differ from many, as it is based more on feeling than on intellectual understanding. They do well at beginning projects, but less well at completing them. There may be lessons to aid vegans in learning self-discipline and willpower, or they may surround themselves with others who are supportive and will aid in the completion of projects and ideas. Those from Vega are travelers who seek variety, challenge and understanding of the many questions they have within. They may become bored easily. They tend to analyze, question and doubt all which they do not understand, does not meet their belief system, or simply does not feel right. Although quite willing to learn, change and grow, Vegans need understanding to occur on an inner level to allow opening within for change to occur. This understanding will not be of a practical, logical nature. It will be an inner comprehension that will be more a feeling that leads to knowing instead of a technical understanding. Most from Vega have a strong sense of responsibility, nurturing and caring. They may find fulfillment in working with children, those who are ill or in need of care and support. At times, however, they may be overly responsible for others, and may need to remind themselves of the importance of teaching responsibility, as well as being responsible. They may need to work with developing a stronger sense of feeling the integrity of others, as they may find themselves taken advantage of due to their caring nature. They may find others attracted to their understanding energy, and may be approached in many situations by others wishing to share personal problems. It should be noted that few from Vega are themselves willing to share personal details with others, unless trust is first established. Vegans have healing abilities, and may have an affinity for stones and crystals. Many from Vega work in caring for others in the area of health care, either physical, mental, as teachers or in areas which allow freedom of creative expression. They have a strong need for time alone, privacy, and freedom from restrictions. It is important that they be shown appreciation for what is done for others. Those in personal relationships with vegans may at times be in need of more attention, and may feel somewhat neglected, due to their many interests and areas of focus. They may become so involved with caring for others, that they neglect personal needs and personal relationships. Starseed Origins. Much love to you all, Ishtar. An insight into the Lion People Part 2. The next Lion Man who one will quote from is a white lion man called Devon. He is one of the heads of the Galactic Federation. The information was channeled via Jalila Star, who is a lion woman incarnation from the 9th dimension, and is the spokesperson for the Nibiruan Council on Earth. The article mentions the importance of Nibiru in Earth's ascension. Nibiru is a planet that is home to the lion people and many other races. Greetings. It fills my heart with so much joy to reconnect with you. My communication today is from myself and fellow 9D Nibiruans, your ancient ancestors, as well as the 5D Nibiruans, your parents. For those who are not familiar with either, a brief introduction follows. Who are the 5D Nibiruans? The Nibiruans are peoples from the planet Nibiru, and the ones who created your physical form more than 262,000 years ago. The planet is quite large with 2 accompanying moons and a host of inhabited asteroids. Seen from outer space, it appears as a comet with a long tail filled with debris. That debris is actually 2 moons and a host of asteroids, motherships and spacecraft owned and inhabited by your galactic family. The Nibiruans are comprised of many species and races. There are several dimensions of consciousness among the Nibiruans. One could say the average level of consciousness within the general society is 5D, with their spiritual community being 6D. This due to the fact that the planet acts as a base of operation for the many worlds involved in the grand experiment on Earth. Though Nibiruans are diverse in race, culture and consciousness, they are united in their understanding of Earth and her role in the universe. Who are the 9D Nibiruans? I include myself in this group, are 9th dimensional time travelers and time healers from the ancient worlds of Lyra, Alpha Draconis, and Orion. We are grid workers and template makers who travel the timelines, interjecting ourselves at various points in order to help alter future events, always with the intent of keeping an ascension process on track. Having done so, we are genetically related to the peoples of many worlds beyond Lyra, Orion and Alpha Draconis. These include, but are not limited to, the worlds of Sirius A, B, and C, Arcturus, Andromeda, and the Pleiades. We call ourselves Nibiruans for several reasons. First, they are our descendants. Second, Our current project involves the ascension of their child race. Third and most importantly, this ascension could bring about the end of our universal game of soul evolution. The Nibiruans, being multiracial, created you with all the DNA codes of all species involved in the grand experiment of polarity integration, the universal game of soul evolution grand experiment. This means that along with becoming a new member of the galactic community, you also shoulder the responsibility of showing others how to achieve integration. As such, your graduation requires that you attain a level of consciousness beyond that of previous ascending worlds. With such an important and divine destiny, the highest and most experienced guidance is required. Since Nibiru is the location of your parent race and the home base for the grand experiment, we use their name in our title when communicating with you. As stated previously, Nibiru's society could be considered fifth-dimensional with a sixth-dimensional spiritual community. Nibiru's activities as a field office for the Galactic Federation of Worlds brought them to the awareness of their spiritual responsibilities as your parent race and as a command post for your grand experiment. Nibiru's spiritual community comprises individuals from every walk of life, including those in industry, science, politics, military and its royal ruling family. We in the ninth dimension communicate with members of Nibiru's spiritual community and leadership. What is our agenda? Speaking for all Nibiruans, ancient and otherwise, our agenda has and will continue to be that of guiding you through your ascension and graduation into the galactic community. To understand current and future plans, we must first review past efforts. Grid work, templates and tools. We began our final phase of assistance in 1996 with the launch of Project Earthshift. Through this project we assisted you in establishing a fifth-dimensional grid and later a ninth-dimensional grid in 2001. Our efforts consisted of laying the groundwork so that when the moment came, you could make a new choice that resulted in the creation of a new grid of consciousness. Our groundwork was mainly grid work, laying energetic grid lines via those Nibiruans who had incarnated, or walked in, on Earth. Also included was template work wherein we assisted our people in making new choices in response to ancient issues, all of which would impact future events all the way to the end of 2012. There is much more to this than we can address in this message. In addition to grid and template work, we provided the tools that would enable of you to recompile all 12 DNA strands and restore your former abilities. Authors note the Nibiruans shared reports on their work through articles on our website at www.nibiruancouncil.com. Our current plan is simple. We will continue to maintain the 5D and 9D grids while fine-tuning their templates in order to ensure the best possible outcomes to events they are meant to influence. These include but are not limited to the minimization of Earth changes, the demise of old global political, financial and industrial systems and the establishment of new ones. This will require a new round of template making workshops to be held in specific locations. We will be contacting our Nibiruan relatives on Earth to assist in this work. Chances are if you are reading this article, you are Nibiruan, or connected to someone who is. In addition, we are stepping up our efforts to get out the message of compassion, as it is the key to creating the world we all want to see by 2012. To this end, we will continue to influence the dreams of writers and musicians, leading to a collaborative creation of new movies and music about Nibiru and 12-strand DNA. Our people on Earth will begin traveling again, sharing the message of Nibiru and the return of mankind's parent race. We realize that those who wish to keep you disempowered will also step up their efforts to discredit us. We cannot and will not stop them, as it is all part of the ascension process. You must learn to use your discernment and decide whose message you will heed. In closing, the days are growing shorter till Nibiru reappears in your sky. Take this time to complete your emotional clearing. With our reappearance, and Earth's journey across the galactic equator, A new era begins. We the Nibiruans, your parents and ancient ancestors, look forward to welcoming you home and into the galactic community. Remember, you are the hope of the universe and the answer to our prayers. In service, Devon, head of the 9D Nibiruan Council, through Jalala Star. Here is some more information on Devon, authored by Jalala Star. Devon is the reigning patriarch of the royal house of Avon. He took on this role when our father, Shambhala, died during the First Great War on our home planet of Avon, in the Vega star system of Lyra. As such, this makes him the ninth dimensional head of the Nibiruan Council, taking over that post from our father as well. In this capacity, he resides as head of the council that oversees the intergalactic Nibiruan Council's activities in regards to Earth's ascension plan, as well as the evolutionary plans of other planetary schools in our galaxy and universe. Devon is a member of other federations beyond our Galactic Federation. You could liken him to a kindly king of a powerful country who is involved in the affairs of other countries, offering leadership skills and assistance of all kinds. Devon has many soul fragments, multidimensional selves on other dimensions and lifetimes. A few of these lifetimes have been on Earth. One in particular was during the time of Camelot and Avalon, the lifetime that many say was not real, but we know differently. Devon is a warm, caring and jovial being. He repeatedly advises me on his pet peeves, of which one is the importance of attention to details and the other is in the use of analogies. He is a master at using analogies to explain higher dimensional multidimensional information, and he encourages me to do the same. I often tell people when I am channeling him, just a moment, Devon is looking through his book 1001 Earth Analogies to find one to explain what he is trying to get across to you. Devon feels that it is extremely important that the people of Earth are given the means to understand the higher dimensions. He knows that they need to be prepared to become members of the galactic community and, therefore, takes it upon himself to provide analogies to help them understand universal information. And, in case you are wondering, he nags other members of our council here on Earth to do the same. His other pet peeve, details, is what he feels creates much pain on Earth due to the fact that Earthlings tend to not pay enough attention to them in communicating with each other. He harps on details because, he says, the lack of details in communication helped bring on the First Great War that killed my father, Shambhala. Devon is my brother on the 9th dimension, and while I am on Earth, he is my guide. Devon and I made this arrangement before I left to come to Earth in 1992. He chose to stay home and assist me from that end, therefore, he is not incarnate on Earth, though some of his multidimensional selves are, and I have met one of them. The final lion person who I shall quote from is one of the heads of Genetics Joycia, who has a base with other higher dimensional lion people around the planet of Saturn. The quote is taken from the book We Are the Nibiruans, authored by Jalala Star. Greetings, beloved ones of Earth. I am Joycia, Chief Genetics Engineer from Siriusa in service to the Nibiruan Council of the Galactic Federation. To you I bring wonderful news. You are now ready to 1. Activate the production of the hormone of compassion. 2. Receive the realignment and fusion of your 12 strands of DNA by removing the implants from your astral bodies. 3. Reconnect those 12 strands into your physical body's endocrine systems through your 12 crown chakras crystals. 4. Permanently access your oversoul or download your oversoul into your physical body. Your oversoul arrangement depends on your contract. 5. Activate your Merkaba, crown crystal chakras, and dormant psychic glands, thus making you a fully conscious being existing in a third-dimensional body. Fully conscious means being able to receive transmissions 24 hours a day, from incarnate beings in the dimensions beyond third dimension. You will know what we mean when we say living in the third dimension but not being of it. We are very excited to be of service to you in this long-awaited endeavor. Through the process of DNA recoding, reconnection and reactivation, RRA, you will regain the full powers of a multidimensional human. 10 of your 12 DNA strands were disconnected long by your Pleiadian parents, the Nibiruans, so that your spiritual growth would catch up and move ahead of your technological growth, thus removing the possibility of destruction at your own hand. To the starseeds and walk-ins, yours is a path of awakening. You came from the future back into the past to affect the outcome of earthly events and assist the heirs to the planet the Earth Syrians. This, of course, means accepting your soul contract for your lifetime and fulfilling it. And that concludes my quoting from Lion People. In order to truly imbue the reader with a complete and precise insight into the Lion People, I have decided to include 2 articles written by Jalila Star. The first is a brief description of the higher dimensional Lion People. The felines are one of the 2 primary races in our universe. They arrived here by invitation of the founders. Having successfully completed their universal game in completing their universe, a group of 45 felines volunteered to come to this universe to help set up and oversee the same game here. The felines are a bipedal race that stand 12 to 16 feet tall. Their skin is covered by a sort of soft fuzz, and though they don't have fur, they do have manes, and both the males and females have long hair. Their eye color ranges from blue to gold and can change from blue to gold as they mature. They also turn from a golden brown color to white. The overall feline temperament is warm, sanguine and intellectual. As they mature they take on more of a somber, introspective and gentle nature. The elders are revered for the wisdom, compassion and insight. As a race they are extremely close and have a great sense of fair play. The females are revered and honored in equal status with the males. And true to the feline way, they are all very curious and inquisitive. As part of the universal game, the founders gave the felines a new planet in the Lyra constellation for their home. The felines named it Avon. Now this is not the exact pronunciation, nor spelling, but it is close enough. The real name cannot be translated into English. Avon was a paradise planet with mountains, lakes, streams and oceans. This blue planet was very much like our present Earth in form and variety of vegetation and life forms. When the felines arrived, they were in etheric form, and therefore, went through the stage of evolving a physical body in which to reside on the planet. After many millions of years they evolved the lion and other felines and began incarnating into those forms. As part of the plan, a portion of the original felines stayed in etheric form to provide guidance to those incarnating. They would be the equivalent of your modern-day Christos beings. Remember, this was a 3D planet, and once the etheric felines incarnated they would fall under the veil of amnesia that is part of the workings of a 3D planet of free will. As time passed, and through countless incarnation cycles, the felines evolved a line of felines that walked upright and retained the consciousness of their etheric counterparts thanks to the periodic incarnations of some of the etheric felines, and DNA from a bipedal mammal similar to the ape, that was evolving on the planet as well. With the DNA from the ape-like mammal the felines were able to take on a more human-like body while retaining most of the facial features and other characteristics of the feline. It was from this crossing when it reached a certain stage that the genetic line known as the Royal Line of Avon, or House of Avon, came into being. The etheric felines would continue to take turns incarnating to provide not only DNA upgrading, but teaching and training in higher dimensional principles lest their planet-bound brothers and sisters get stuck in the non-sentient animal incarnation cycle. As you can see, the felines evolved on Avon in much the same manner as humans evolved here on Earth. The only difference is that the humans did get stuck in the animal cycle. More on that on the Universal History page. In time the conscious felines grew large enough in number to take on the responsibilities of planetary guardians of their home world. They continued to evolve and eventually developed the technology for space travel and then warp technology. Their etheric brothers and sisters continued to act as their guides. Many among them became geneticists of feline speciality and began helping to develop life forms of various kinds for planets and stars in the universe. Some among them became great space explorers and scientists of various kinds. It was during this stage in their development that the felines would turn their attention to that bipedal mammal they owed so much to, and begin a program of genetic crossing and upgrading that would give them a soul and, in the process, create a new species that would become known as the humans. After numerous crossings and genetic upgrades, the Adamic human was made. There were two strains, the red-headed strain being the more outgoing and energetic, and the platinum blonde strain being the more gentle-natured and introspective. After many thousands of years of continued careful crossing breeding, the feline, human hybrids began to be more common in the royal line of the felines, the House of Avon, than the purebred felines were. Yet, this was the plan. In time the purebred felines would become the ancient ancestors of the humans with only their genetic traits as a reminder of the connection between them. And though the genetic relationship between the felines and humans has been forgotten by modern man, the felines remain in our consciousness as a regal creature, worthy of our respect and love. The felines remain the loving and supportive guardians of their genetic offspring, the humans. They have continued in this role through time and all dimensions of the universal game. Devon Feline is the reigning patriarch of the 9D Royal House of Avon, and a new human is the reigning patriarch of the 5D Royal House of Avon at this time. And the final article which I shall include is a description of the three most major planetary systems which involves the lion people in one way or another and other races, most notably the humans, reptilians, and bird people. Long ago, before time as we know it began, there were the founders of the universe, highly evolved souls that had already completed many universal games. Being creator gods, they decided to create a universe of their own. As the 12 came together, they were faced with the question of which game to choose so that the souls created in, or coming to, their new universe could spiritually evolve. And spiritual evolution is what every soul desires. Finally, after much consideration, they chose the game known as polarity integration. This game is one of many that involves the integration of the light and the dark developed by Divine Creator in order to experience all that he or she is. Now that the choice of games had been made, they knew they would need to have individuals experienced in this game to assist them in the development of the game in their new universe, individuals who would agree to become a part of it and see it through to its completion. So the founders put out a call to all souls in all universes that had completed at least one polarity integration game. Their call was answered by 90 individuals, highly evolved souls that had just recently completed that game and were looking for another place to go in order to continue their spiritual evolution. This group of 90 was made up of 45 Carians and 45 Felines. They arrived in this our present universe and began meeting with the founders to set up the game. The group of 90 elected one of their own to sit on the Founders' Council to act as a liaison between their group and the founders. The one chosen is known to us as Devon. Devon's real name is Devane, was the patriarch of the feline group family. The Carians were given a planet in the Orion constellation as their new home, while the Felines were given a planet in the Lyra constellation for theirs. So the group of 90 divided and went to their respective planets to begin the game. The Carians would represent the dark and the Felines would represent the light. In time both had evolved physical forms in which to incarnate so that they could walk upon the surface of their planetary homes. Both established pure royal lines within their ever-growing race. In time, both crossbred into other life forms on their planetary homes to create a new race of beings. And then, when that new race had become an established part of their respective societies, the Carian, reptilians arrived in the Lyra constellation and colonized a neighboring planet of the feline, humans. In doing so, they were now ready for the first grand experiment of integration. We call it the first Earth Grand Experiment. This first grand experiment occurred on a 3D planet just like Earth, and it was the home of the felines, humans. As their technology advanced, the feline, humans learned how to create wormholes and achieve space travel. Soon both races were traveling back and forth, visiting each other's planet. The two groups were now reunited again, but with many new people, their offspring, involved. Over time they began to mix with the two royal lines, intermarrying to form alliances. All went well for some time. Through the mixing of the races, new races were created and soon a caste system developed. There was the royalty, the priestly caste, the scientists, and the military. The remainder of the population made up the worker caste. I am still not completely clear as to all that transpired to create the rift between the two royal families that brought about the first great galactic war, but I do know this: it was due to a lack of communication involving some details. Someone communicated with someone else regarding something but neglected to include all the details. I am told it was regarding an alliance. They were not completely clear on the details of the agreement. So feelings were hurt, leading to feelings of mistrust, and then it began to steamroll with the feline, humans launching the first attack against their reptilian neighbors. Backing up a bit, before the Great Galactic War, there were some minor wars of a much smaller scale between the two houses. This, I am told, is when my father, Shimabala, and Jaha's father, Kobazar, were killed. We were all teenagers, still wet behind the ears when our fathers died. Up until this time we were all very close to each other. I have recalled memories of visiting Jaha in his favorite cave and playing for hours together. These memories are filled with warm, loving feelings. Now, as we take on the mantles of leadership, we are instantly pitted against each other to some degree, even though the war which killed our fathers is over and my marriage to Jaha is the part that seals the alliance that brings peace to our families. And even though another war breaks out, we do not war with each other, trying to keep our personal connections to each other out of the chaos that continues around us. Second Earth Pleiades. Toward the end of the First Galactic War, with the destruction of our planet, my brother Devon, myself and Jaha fled along with a large group of people on one of our last remaining starships, Pelagai. We eventually settled in a new cluster of stars later to be known as the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades. We lived on this ship and spent much of our time establishing a colony on the planet's surface. We called our new home Avan after our original home. It was a beautiful blue planet, much like our previous one, with 2 suns. Life progressed and so did we. Cities were built, civilizations came and went. Eventually we left the planet to those who came with us. We became the ancient ones to them, the original founders of our civilization on that planet. But as usual, with time the facts became distorted so that the written history no longer reflected the actual events. In time this planet became known throughout the cosmos and other civilizations came calling, some just curious and others with an agenda to conquer. The inhabitants of the planet had evolved to the level of space travel, a little beyond where we are today. They had evolved beyond disease and social disparity and created a unified government, but also an almost hive mentality. Everyone thought and acted as one, but in their actions did not express the dark side of their natures. They only expressed their lighter side as this was the social norm. The people had become spiritually stagnant, unable to progress due to their choice to suppress their dark side, masculine side, and use their 3 lower chakras. As a result, they, on an unconscious spiritual level, called forth a race who were their polar opposite to move them out of this stuck position. At first this race came speaking of peace, but soon realized there was more to gain from taking over the planet than trying to cooperate with a race of people they could not for the life of them understand. It took many years, but in time their true agenda was revealed through the efforts of the resistance movement. Once the word was out and all attempts at negotiations failed, the humans launched the first attack to try and drive this race away from their planet. In their ongoing efforts to fight off their enemy, they managed to destroy their planet. The survivors fled to many places in the galaxy and eventually established colonies on other planets. Third Earth, Pleiades, our current Earth. So here we are today, in another ascension process. The first two Earths never made it through an ascension. I believe that many of us here on Earth today were on the one or both of the previous Earth experiments. And due to the wisdom we have accumulated from our experiences, will successfully ascend ourselves, Earth's people, and the planet. What we lacked before was compassion and acceptance of others different from ourselves. We have learned that polarizing to the light or the dark does not allow us to feel compassion and maintain peace. Only by integrating the light and dark within us and their corresponding manifestations in our realities we will be able to complete the third grand experiment successfully, with the planet intact and all the races involved that much further along their spiritual paths. Excellent confirmation of this was provided with an outrageously informative and phenomenally spectacular 80s cartoon known as the Thundercats. Indeed, many readers may recall the sight of the great red-headed lion man, Lion-O, waving his sword of omens, and his fingers over the nose talking cat, Snarf. Or the fat, corpulent reptilian Slith who spoke with a reptilian lisp. Interestingly, the main writer of the Thundercats is another star, by the name of Leonard Starr. And when the Thundercats fled their destroyed planet, Thundra, they did so in a vast spaceship. They arrived on a planet called Third Earth. And the Thundercats, who primarily consisted of a lion man, a tiger man, a cheetah woman, and a panther man, were followed by a group of so-called mutants who traveled in warships. They were mostly reptilian humanoids. Later in the series, there was an exceedingly clever character featured known as the Vulture Man. He became the reptilians' greatest asset. Again, this was superb confirmation of the themes just outlined. So, to recapitulate the theme of the article, there are quite clearly an advanced race of sentient, humanoid felines in the universe. And, furthermore, such beings obviously are fundamentally connected to humans. Though the purpose of this article was to provide an insight into the lion people, perhaps one has provided an even greater insight into humans and their current situation, and indeed other galactic beings too. A final note, as if to take the piss, synchronicity speaking, I came across a hilarious article in a paper today, so ludicrous that I will refrain from mentioning names for the sake of not wanting to humiliate the author of the article, who may well deeply regret the words written in the years to come. Basically, it was the usual close-minded, ultra-skeptical, prevailing mentality amongst so-called academics and scientists. The article preposterously and ridiculously pontificated that the most terrifying possibility was that we are alone in the universe. I nearly spat my breakfast out with disgust. And, the basis for such an erroneous conclusion was that there is not a shred of evidence which proves the existence of extraterrestrial life. Well, millions of sightings of spaceships, and countless photographs and videos of such ships, which can make maneuvers that no earthling craft can, or that can disappear, surely constitute as evidence for the existence of spaceships. After all, the sight of an airplane proves the existence of an airplane, so why does the sight of a spaceship not prove the existence of a spaceship? And, furthermore, to use the close-minded one's own contradictory and nonsensical so-called logic, are we to believe that because a human has wrote an article it proves the existence of either he or she? If we are, then, may I be so outrageously bold as to say, that could we not apply the same definition of proof to our feline friends, just this once? Surely, vivid descriptions of home worlds and word after word of detailed information, and highly thought-provoking concepts of human civilization and its many faults and hardships clearly delivered by an external source, constitutes the same proof of the existence of a feline author as the proof of a human author to the newspaper article which I have just outlined. How do I come to such a conclusion? Any truly awake and spiritually evolved being can automatically detect the true author of any segment of information, and, this is the proof which our close-minded humans on Earth cannot possibly hope to attain, because they are in denial of the veracity of the existence of extraterrestrials and their minds are so closed that they cannot see the evidence that is before their very eyes. I hope I have proved my feline point. An Insight into the Lion People Part 1. In this article I shall inform the reader about an ancient extraterrestrial race known as the Lion People. I shall provide both my own knowledge of such a race and numerous examples of the existence of the Lion People in various books. Having underwent hypnotic regression and uncovering galactic memories via one's higher mind, one can say that one has had lives as various feline humanoids. So, I am able to say that I do possess first-hand knowledge and experience of the existence of the aforementioned race. Please bear in mind that hypnotic regression is not always perfectly accurate nor personal recollections, due to the brain sometimes misinterpreting higher information. However, the general themes of the article certainly are veracious as they are confirmed by many different sources. My most notable feline incarnations took place in the constellations of Lyra, Sirius, and the Pleiades. Indeed, my first life in this universe was as a lion woman. I have vivid recollections of the Lyran homeworld. It was a planet of pink grass, purple skies and a vast blue sun. The buildings were mostly dome-shaped and there were many crystal cities. Also, there were butterflies as big as vultures, and they were rainbow-colored. Such a planet was, however, destroyed in a brutal galactic war. My Syrian incarnation was on a planet with two suns, one blue and one yellow. The grass was both purple and blue and the sky a combination of green and pink. I was a lion woman in that life and I was a Galactic Federation teacher who taught reptilian and lion children. One of my feline incarnations in the Pleiades was as a lion man prince and I was born on a spaceship. I had to travel the universe and act as a diplomat, for I was a Federation member once again and I had many encounters with reptilian Draconian Empire members. Oh, yes, and under regression, I uncovered that I was a hybrid on one planet in the Pleiades. I was half lion and half lizard, due to a lizard man and a lion woman intermixing. And I even traveled to Earth in Egyptian times in one of my lion man incarnations. There are many feline humanoids in the universe, however, the most popular and original genetic strain of feline humanoids were the Lion People. The Lion People generally were sandy in color and mainly had golden or red hair coupled with blue or orange eyes. Other feline humanoids are variations of the Lion People. The Lion People are exceptionally benevolent beings, highly intelligent and creative. They are also immensely strong. They can be great galactic warriors when they have to be, and the only battles they fight is to either protect themselves or other beings in the universe. There are tiger people, panther people, cheetah people, leopard people, lynx people, and exotic cat people which resemble nothing on Earth. An example of this is a strain of feline humanoids which have cat features but which possess triangular markings and are blue in color. The cat people, originally arrived from another universe with a group of bird people. And the two races went on to create other races in this universe. Most notably the feline people created humans in the constellation of Lyra, some 8 million years ago, and the bird people had created reptilian humanoids many millions of years earlier, as I chronicle in my Reptilian, Human Galactic History and Current Situation article. Now then, forgive my brief digression. The lion people, and when I say lion people, I include all strains of feline humanoids, who are variations of the lion people, eventually settled in Sirius after a brutal galactic war with reptilian humanoids and bird humanoids which resulted in the devastation of the humans' home planets in Lyra. Though, during their galactic travels the lion people had colonized other worlds, most notably in the Pleiades. The lion people eventually colonized a planet that orbited the Great Sirius, a star in the constellation of Canis Major. On this heavenly planet of transcendental magnificence, the felines delightfully and tranquilly basked in the picturesque glory of their divine planet. Their society was a world of peace, benevolence, and understanding for their fellow beings. There was no wars, sickness, disease, perversion, greed, avarice, or any of the hideous darkness which is often found on Earth. The lion people, who sought to share their divinity with others, helped to form the Galactic Federation with various galactic humans 4.5 million years ago. Being the good-hearted felines that they are, they did not want to hoard their godly way of living to their one planet. As I said, their desire to share their benignity and benevolence with others, resulted in them doing just that. And, so, many lion people eventually traveled to Earth, approximately 1 million years ago. And, during such a time, Earth had been invaded by reptilians from the Draconian Empire. A war ensued between the felines and the reptilians once again. The reptilians were driven underground. However, many humans had willingly turned to the dark and had brought about their own destruction, hence the demise of Lemuria and Atlantis, some 13,000 years ago. As the humans had generally brought such darkness upon themselves, they had to collectively experience the karmic ramifications of their own darkness as they have for the last 13,000 years. Despite this, however, the lion people still worked with earthlings who sought to better themselves both spiritually and physically, as did galactic humans who were closer comrades of the lion people. The evidence for the lion people can be found in Egyptian hieroglyphics and statues and stories of Egyptian gods and goddess. Some notable examples of this are the great feline humanoid goddess, Bastet, and her lion sun god, Mos. Other Egyptian examples of lion people gods and goddess are Sekhmet, Wadjet, Sekhmet, and Tefnut. Furthermore, the evidence can be found with modern-day experiences too. In this section of the article, I would like to acquaint the reader with a brief overview of the overwhelmingly substantiating evidence for the existence of the lion people in channeled books. I say evidence, obviously in the sense of confirmation. The first channeled book to mention the lion people was, of course, The Lion People, authored and channeled by Murray Hope. In such a book the channeler receives messages from a race of lion people. One will quote from a passage based upon the lion people themselves delivered by a lion man called Kani. Once upon a time there was, still is, and will be for eons, a solar system that you in your inner time have named Sirius, after its major visible star. Over vast periods on inner time there have been changes in both the stars and planets in this binary system. But my tale concerns one particular era when a race of beings dwelled on one small planet. As you see this system at present there are two suns, one small and one large, but this was not always so. There was a time when the smaller star was a yellow sun, not unlike your own luminary, and it was this star sun that was orbited by the planet which our species developed. In this cool, well-irrigated and highly verdant land there evolved a race of beings whom, for want of a better name, we shall call Pascats. Our days and nights, however, were very different from yours. We had periods, call them days if you like, that were moderately light and bright, depending on the position of the second star sun before it collapsed. There were other very bright days indeed during the light of the blue-white star sun when we were often unable to leave our homes, and also periods of great darkness when everything withdrew into a long sleep or hibernation. I am from a tribe or group known as the Caridal. There were 4 basic tribes or races on my old planet, each having its own specific role or duty. As we all understood the principles of archetypical expression and the coming and going of the psyche or essence fragment, there were no bad relations or feelings of resentment between the races. The Caridal were rulers and philosophers, the Uruthidal were warriors and protectors, the Petri were creative artists, artisans and skilled workers, and the Eta were the general folk who fitted in anywhere and who were very, very strong physically. Our race evolved from a specific cosmic impulse which produces a specific evolutionary strain or genotype. This primary impulse formulated the genetic code that shaped us in the species that we ultimately became. For your visualization, the nearest description would be a feline genus appearing as a cross between one of your domestic cat and the lion family, but our features are more refined. Our jaws are less elongated and our ears less rounded than your lion's. We stand erect on 2 legs as tall or taller than yourselves, our bodies having been adapted to this posture over a long period of time. The males of our species are manned, but not our females. Our paws have also evolved to a more useful shape over long periods of adaptation. In answer to the question I see forming in your mind, yes, we do have tails. We were distinguishable by our color and eyes. My tribe were brownish or fawn in color with bright blue eyes. The warriors were orange-eyed and sandy in hue, like your lions or marmalade casts. The artists were pale, white or grayish, and green or turquoise-eyed, while the strong folk were a mixture of all shades, and often striped. When we first started our course of evolution we were fur-covered, but later we clothed ourselves for decoration rather than modesty. Our planet was very sparsely inhabited, only certain parts of it being warm enough to live in. One of these belts of vegetation was quite lush, while the other was similar in parts to the temperature of northern Europe. Our bodies had evolved to accommodate the temperatures encountered on our native planet, so we managed well. The Lion Man goes on to explain that the lion people were great friends with another race of beings who lived on another planet as the lion people's solar system. They were a race of crystallized humanoids, who came from a planet called Ishana. Eventually, the lion people migrated to the crystal people's planet after there were problems caused from one of the suns on the lion people's home world. There were changes in the atmosphere which affected the vocal cords of the lion people. Such changes caused the lion people to be more telepathic. The lion people are, according to the Lion Man just quoted from, immensely strong beings capable of bending even steel. And, they are well-grounded and creative. The crystal beings are very scientific, intellectual beings and also creative. It was also stated that the lion people do not consume meat, and that there were mobile plants on their planet, as well as wise trees. And, the soil was apparently green. Here is a description based upon other beings in the universe delivered by the same Lion Man. There are indeed those who look in from other time zones, some out of mild curiosity, others, like ourselves, are anxious to be of assistance, and a few are of less kindly intent. We do not have close communications with all of these intelligences, but we do know the dolphin people and the lizard people from the Capella, or Riga region, among others. Like ourselves, the latter also visited your planet thousands of years ago, even before we did, but their efforts to help the species existing there in those times failed, which greatly distressed them. The evolutionary pattern was corrected with passing of the Saurians, however. These people are benign and gentle beings, but because their evolutionary type is so far removed from your own, they could appear frightening to your peoples. Now the crystal people are very beautiful by your standards of beauty and would not, were you to meet them, present a fearful picture. I can hear you asking, what about past cats? When the time comes for our time zones to intermingle, those who are around then will meet a fine-looking, handsome bunch of felines, with a special sense of humor that is peculiar to our own kind. It is not a cruel humor that brings smiles at the expense of another's tears, however. Anyone who likes felines will like Pascats. I think you would consider us giddily by your standards. The sequel to The Lion People was entitled The Pascats and the Crystal People, and was authored by Murray Hope once again. One shall quote from a relevant passage. The deliverer of the following information is a lion woman called Mikieli, who delivers a friendly lecture on human civilization. We have viewed your media material as shown in many parts of your world and would say without doubt that the accent is more on chaos than on order. In fact, we would suggest that there is a glorification of all things chaotic, which has an adverse influence on immature essence fragments in particular, but also affects those who are on the verge of taking their leave of the fields of cosmic childhood. In case you are not aware of it, your media actually programs you by dictating the norm or what those in control of the systems feel should be standard behavior. Therefore, those essence fragments that are ready to raise to the next stage in their cosmic development feel obliged to stay at the lower frequency for fear of being thought odd or different. It is no use my picking on any particular moral or ethic, as I am not of your species anyway, nor have my own people ever been part of an evolutionary stream that is sick. The glorification of vice, deviations of all kind, violence, cruel competition, the degrading of your females and many, many more attitudes and practices that would not form part of your norm were your species and the planet as a whole on its current evolutionary path, are symptomatic of the malaise which blinds you to the light of cosmic truth. I would not waste my channel's time outlining the way you would all feel were you cured of your sickness. I fear it would be dismissed as boring, no fun at all and not natural. I regret to say that compared with the behavior of hominoids of similar evolutionary status in other parts of the universe, it is you who are unnatural, since you delight in abusing natural cosmic laws. The next feline humanoid who one shall quote from is a cat woman from Sirius who works on a zoo ship for endangered animals in the universe. She is called Tashaba and she mentions the prospect of Earthlings mingling with extraterrestrials and the changing of human genetics. The book quoted from is entitled Songs of the Arcturians, authored by Patricia Pereira. If you closely monitor the skies for signs of increasing starship activity, you will be exceedingly gratified. Earth herself glimmers ever so much brighter now that the melodious tones of her pulsating energies are beginning to adjust to the more delicate vibrato of the sweeter celestial hums. I purr in my realization of that which is absolute. I note, to a dawning future and visualize the people coming upon the starships. I am able to clearly see that there will come a time when we will welcome you among us. By the loving touch that is, I do embrace the universe of my birth. By the sparkling lights of the galaxy that is my home do I send my delight forth as a gift to you. DNA patterns basic to all planetary life are really third-dimensional projections of fourth-dimensional ethereally aligned light. As a physical being, your primary tendency is to view yourself as something that can be seen, felt, and heard, a specialized assortment of bone, sinew, and the like. Nevertheless, the basic ingredient from which you are formed is essence of soul. You are a spiritual being temporarily residing in a physical body maintained by an astral body, an emotional body, a causal body, a mental body, and a succession of continuously refining elements quite beyond our ability to adequately describe. DNA helix strand are the glue that attaches your physical body's cells to your light energies, or spiritual substance. Your physical body is patterned on a reflection of your spirit body. Does it not stand to reason that your human body was fashioned upon structures of light? If you can view yourself in this manner, you will understand that alternative DNA is not a weird or mysterious happening but simply an initial step to prepare you to ascend into resonations of refined light. The miraculous feat of providing a spiritual being with a material body is accomplished by downloading etheric DNA graphics into a sort of third-dimensional holographic printout. To aid in understanding the dynamics of this unique process, simply imagine an extraterrestrial humanoid figure shaped from light. When this image is clearly defined, surround your creation with a physical body. Behold! You have created a human being. Many multidimensional telepaths have received the following information in preparation for ascension. The human body will be provided with an additional 12 or 13 DNA strands. The expanding number of physical strands marks the beginning phase of your physical merger into contours of light. The third strand will provide you with the Christ essence, a cosmic indicator that, as soul, will give you the ability to ascend into matter at will and to reascend as spiritual light. This strand is a multidimensional ladder you will use to limb up and out of your physical body, enter and pass through your astral body, and exit into the realms where you will permanently integrate your light or spiritual body. The writer of this article will now quote from a marvelous, but rare book entitled Alkeringa, authored by Valerie J. Barrow. The book is based upon numerous hypnotic regressions, and the subjects of the regressions were souls that had participated in earthly events approximately 1 million years ago. Interestingly, it is said that the lion people traveled to Earth with crystal people and that they came from a planet called Ishana. Fantastic confirmation of Murray Hope's channelings, the cat people. I was in charge of the mission, I should know. We came here to sort out those reptoids, the naughty ones. Most of the time they think they are right. They are like lions, they have a huge lion energy. These half-man and half-animal bipeds come from different planets. God's creatures, generally speaking, start out pure as babies do. Then they become corrupt as they develop. We, on the other hand, are devoid of all evil. So, if there is a problem in the galaxy, we go in and sort them out. Cosmic cops, that's what we are the governors of space. In fact, we are the kings of space. The next book I shall quote from is called Jason, My Indigo Child, and is authored by Ann Andrews. Apparently, a lion man spoke to her through another human's body. It was a being, well over 6 foot tall, dressed in loose-fitting clothing. I had time to notice a large gold-colored buckle within the clothing. He was a very strong, powerful being, and his face was lion-esque in its features. It was pale gold in color with a wide but flat nose and prominent nostrils. His mouth was small but otherwise ordinary, and he had a great shock of bright golden hair, a lioness mane falling in an unruly mess over his massive shoulders. His eyes couldn't be seen, he kept them focused towards the floor the whole time. Eleanor had closed her eyes again, and I then realized that the words were being spoken by him, but they were coming from her mouth. He had a wonderful way of speaking, very deep, but soft and calming, and I wanted to hear what he had to say. He began by explaining to me that he is indeed a warrior, immensely powerful and always successful in his many battles. He said that all of his race were galactic warriors and that they were dispersed throughout the universe to act as peacekeepers wherever they were sent. He likened his role to our own United Nations peacekeeping corps, stressing that they preferred solutions, but they were more than able to step in and defend themselves and their charges at any time if they had to. He informed me that they had been around a while, even assisting with the building of great monuments on our planet in our dim and distant past. I asked him where he was from, and he asked me why it was important for me to know that. I answered that I was curious, but he told me that his place of origin was far beyond my primitive comprehension. I remember that I felt rather stupid when he told me that I should be more interested in why he had come, rather than where he was from. The Lion Man went on to explain that he came from a hot planet with 3 suns. The light that came from his eyes was so bright that apparently it could damage some people's eyes. It was also stated that benevolent extraterrestrials were ensuring that indigos, or alien incarnations were receiving fruitful help to proceed with their missions. To digress from the channeled information, one shall mention a few physical encounters with lion people. The first one of which transpires in ancient Egypt. Such an encounter was recalled via spiritual sessions. Denise LaFay apparently interacted with numerous cat humanoids in a previous life in ancient Egypt. As we starseeds stood there staring at them, we each began being affected by the high pure energies they emitted. It was like we were getting high on catnip. We all started shuffling around, giggling quietly and grinning like fools. The 3-star beings kept glancing over their shoulders at us and frowning at us, which meant, "Remember what we told you earlier about how to behave around them?" But it was hopeless. We were already intoxicated by the magnificent feline elders, and the 3 of them knew we'd be affected exactly like that. As we starseeds stood there staring at them, we each began being affected by the high pure energies they emitted. It was like we were getting high on catnip. We all started shuffling around, giggling quietly and grinning like fools. The 3-star beings kept glancing over their shoulders at us and frowning at us, which meant, "Remember what we told you earlier about how to behave around them?" But it was hopeless. We were already intoxicated by the magnificent feline elders, and the 3 of them knew we'd be affected exactly like that. After a few moments of the 3-star beings talking with the elder lion beings, they told us we could slowly and quietly come closer to them. We all shuffled forward like we were 6 years old, giggling, shy, but falling in love with them more and more each minute. The lion beings looked down on us with such profound love and gentleness it was almost too much for one's heart to endure. They were our ancient beloved grandparents from Sirius, and we starseeds fell deeply in love with each of them that day. These giant lion beings from Sirius opened their arms to us starseeds, and we all fell into them and almost melted. We fawned, we petted, we cried, we attached ourselves to each of them. I wrapped my arms around the one front male elder and buried my face in his fur and never wanted to let go. My head only came up to just above his belly. They were that tall compared to us. They emitted nothing but the purest and highest love I'd ever experienced, and it was intoxicating being within their space, within their presence. The 3-star beings stepped back and let us have a rare moment of bliss with the elder lion beings. They looked on like the loving but stern parents they were to all of us young starseeds. We talked softly with the lion elders and they with us. It was clear they loved and missed us deeply, but it was also obvious why they couldn't be in physicality for very long. It was simply too dense, too heavy, too unloving an atmosphere and dimension for them to be in for very long, even back over 12,000 years ago. Like a fish out of water, they could only be in physicality for just so long before they had to go back home again. After about a half hour we had to let the elder lion beings leave. We starseeds openly wept like little children, and the Syrian starbeing kept shaking his head in disbelief at us. We thought we wouldn't emotionally survive them leaving Earth after falling in love so deeply with all of them that afternoon in ancient Egypt. But, they had to go back home, and so the meeting ended far too soon for all of us. Next, I wish to include an exceedingly rare physical encounter with a cat man. Such an encounter, wonderfully confirms much of the channeled information thus far relayed. The encounter is somewhat of an oddball encounter that transpired in July 1968, and occurred to Walter Rizzi. The information stems from an article located in Flying Saucer Review. This individual says that he saw a vast object 80 meters in diameter, which was wonderfully beautiful and silvery in color. The object was supported by apparatus that were about 2 meters long and about 2 meters thick at the bottom. The ship was surrounded by a white light. 2 beings were spotted at the top of the craft, which was transparent. One of the beings was a robot about 2.5 meters high, and with 3 legs and 4 arms. A beam of light was seen and a being 1 meter and 60 centimeters in height was seen. He wore a tight-fitting suit and a helmet. This confirms a comment in the book which I quote from Alcaringa, which said that the feline beings wore helmets when on Earth. I will quote from the man who saw the Catman: "I find it quite impossible to describe the emotion produced in me by the sight of this being. He had very beautiful eyes, which gave me a strange and very sweet sensation. I felt myself free and as light as a feather. At the same time I also felt quite calm and gazed at him eagerly. He was just like us. The glass hood started at his shoulders and encompassed his entire head. I asked him in Italian where he came from, and no sooner had I said it than I already had his answer in my brain, as though I had always known it. Walter was informed telepathically by the Catman that the Catman came from a faraway planet that possessed immensely tall trees and mountains. There was no work on their planet and the cat people ate seeds and vegetables. Apparently, the cat being had a brain twice the size of humans and the race used all of it. On closer inspection of the Catman, Walter noticed that he had green cat eyes that were slightly slanted, brown fur, a cat's nose, and his lips were very small. The Catman went on to explain that there was no sickness on their world, and that their race had very powerful muscles designed to withstand the intensive gravity on their planet. The Catman went on to explain that he flew in a vast mothership thought the universe. The mothership carried smaller ships such as the one landed on Earth. Aboard the mothership, hundreds of beings are living just like on their home planet. The ship traversed throughout space via the higher dimensional energy waves which are abundant in space. Apparently, the feline people had disintegrating weapons which could disintegrate anything. I will quote once again from the human who witnessed the incident. I asked him if he believed in God. He was a bit surprised at that, and gave me to understand, with a cosmic turn of phrase, that everything is God, we, nature, the planets, rocks, grass, in fact everything that exists. The feline beings do not experience slow and painful depths, but transcend to a higher dimension with ease, when their time comes. It was also stated that they live for much longer than humans. After telling the human how lucky he was to have seen him, he departed in his ship. Spectacular bursts of violet and orange light emanated from the spaceship as it flew off. The human cried profusely afterwards. Apparently the so-called Catman turned out to be both sexes. An oddball case as I said. But, nevertheless an intriguing one, and a rarity as most lion people or feline people do not interact directly with humans at this time, as the populace is generally not ready for such interaction. Before one returns to the channeled information, another rare physical, astrally physical encounter, of which one only recently became acquainted with certainly warrants incorporation. A man by the name of James Gilliland, apparently had the pleasure of astrally traveling into a feline-operated spaceship. I will paraphrase from his remarkable YouTube video. On one of my travels, I went out of my body and ended up on a ship. In the ship were all these diverse beings. Such beings are present upon many of the mother ships that abound in Earth's skies. An amazing cat being spun around, out of her chair and gave me a big hug. I felt an incredible sensation of love. Like a long-lost brotherly love, or a reunion love. It was incredible, phenomenal. A great power and energy emanated from her feline being. Her name is Budget. My spelling of the name may not be entirely accurate, as this was transcribed from a video. James then proceeds to tell of a highly interesting encounter in which numerous cat beings were sighted in Mexico. You can meditate and connect with her if you so please. She is very involved in Earth's ascension process. Many humans have had incarnations as feline people in other lives, so when you see these beings, it will be a soul shocker for you, as you may well find them more familiar than alien. The lion people are currently active in many spaceships across the planet. There was a recent landing of one of their crafts in a town in Mexico. The locals were a trifle freaked out when they saw that the occupants of the ship were walking bipedal felines. Their ships are alive and organic and reside in higher dimensions. They also possess the ability to enter the third dimension. One shall next quote from a channeled book entitled Earth, authored by Barbara Marciniak. Beings from the Pleiades have this to say about the lion people and cats: some of the animals here are utilized as transmitters. Your cats are direct transmitters of information to a species of consciousness that uses the cats to monitor you. In ancient times upon your planet, it was in vogue in many cultures to have a lion or other large cat next to the ruling entity. These animals were always there. Look at the ancient statues all over the planet and what do you see? Lions. The cat family represents the biogenetic tooling of a species that looks like you except that it has the visage of a cat. The cat people, or lion people, have come in shifts upon your planet and worked in South America, Mexico, Egypt, and in some island cultures. Statues have been built to honor them. When they taught the human race, or when they mixed their species and created the rulers here, especially in Egypt, they left cats to transmit information so the rulers had direct contact with the species from the stars. This is how many of these rulers made decisions. This is how they were guided. The cats gave them telepathic information. They were like transmitters or cosmic radios. In more current times, cats were owned by witches. Do you think witches were fools? The cats were links to other realms. When energy that is not so uplifted comes in, cats can intercept it and alter the vibration. Now many of you have little cats in your houses that transmit much information to you. However, in this time period, you are not generally working with this kind of information. The cats are guardians and assistants for you, great companions of comfort. The next book which I will quote from is You Are Becoming a Galactic Human, authored by Sheldon Neidl, is based upon galactic humans in Sirius B and their interpretation of the lion people. A Syrian called Washta explains about the lion people. Sirius A has 3 planets which are inhabited by non-human creatures. Their creatures are fully conscious beings and are similar in stature to that of a 7 to 8 foot lion. They look very humanoid except for the fact that they are covered with cat-like fur and have a lion-like face. These entities are incredibly smart, wonderful creatures that have played an important part history ever since we first colonized the Sirius B star system. It was then stated that the lion people willingly gave the humans the Sirius B and C systems because they had plenty of space in their Sirius A star system. The colonization of the humans' worlds occurred 4.3 million years ago. In another book by Sheldon Neidl entitled Your First Contact, it is mentioned that lion people who call themselves the Pascats, meaning warriors from heaven, reside in the Sirius A system. This is excellent confirmation of Murray Hope's books and channeled information. As is the following information. Carolyn Evers channels a lion woman called Lydia the Pascat. A physical description was given of her and apparently she has cat-like ears, brown fur, a cat nose, and mouth, and delightful green eyes with a golden tinge to them. She also has a gorgeous tail, and her fur glistens. Obviously she has a humanoid body, as all the lion people do. She was described as being very pretty and clever, by her own admission. We, lion people, are very brave, courageous and loving beings. We have soft fur and lioness faces. Most of us are fawn color. We have a great interest in Earth and humanity. It is desired that as many Earthlings as possible move to higher dimensions. The Creator is based on love. In 2012, there will be an influx of energy from the Source, which will travel through a black hole in the center of the universe. Earth will be completely changed. Science and spirituality are seen as one on our world. On your world they are not. Earth shall align with the galactic center in 2012. You must think beyond what you know and you will have unlimited potential. This article is continued in an insight into the lion people part 2.